My name is Ethan Varma. I live in a top-floor studio, flat near Camden Lock in North London. It's the kind of place where the floorboards creak and windows whistle when the wind blows, the charming kind of old. It started with a missed call. At 3:13 a.m., my phone rang once and stopped. Unknown number. I thought nothing of it. But the next night, the same thing. Then again, always at exactly 3:13 a.m. I tried calling it back, but it never connected. Instead, I'd get this strange high-pitched tone, like distorted whispering buried under static. I'm a sound engineer. I know interference. This wasn't interference. By the fourth night, I started recording the calls, and that's when I heard it. A voice, whispering he's watching. I scrubbed the audio for hours, isolating the frequencies. It wasn't just random static. It was intentional. A message layered deep into the noise, like a hidden track on a vinyl record. One sample made my skin crawl. It said, "Jessica never left." The name instantly clicked. Jessica Morgan, the woman from that creepy viral video who got haunted in East London by the midnight caller. Everyone assumed it was fake. But why would my phone call reference her? I posted on a paranormal subreddit. A user messaged me privately. Username, Thomas Gray 13. He said, "If you're getting the calls, it means the apartment is listening." Then he sent me a file, a scanned burial register from 1891. The building I lived in had been a mortuary. My flat was the embalming room. I couldn't sleep anymore. The calls became more frequent, not just 3:13 a.m. Now, I'd hear tapping on the ceiling, even though there was no flat above me. I went upstairs the next day, just an attic crawl space. But in the dust, I found shoe prints. Barefoot, human, recent, and something else, a single, old rotary phone mounted on the brick wall. Not connected to anything, but the dial was spinning on its own, until it stopped at E. I bolted. That night, the phone rang again. This time I answered. A woman's voice whispered, "He's in the wires now." Suddenly, every light bulb in my flat exploded at once. My laptop, my phone, my speakers, all started playing that same distorted audio in sync. Over it, layered clear as day, a voice. "Don't try to leave. The number's already inside you." I packed my bags to leave. I didn't care if I lost my deposit. As I reached the stairwell, I saw her, Jessica, standing in the hallway. Pale, eyes hollow, skin flaking like paper. But it wasn't her now. Something else was using her face. It smiled and said in a chorus of voices, "Call received." I ran, but as I reached the front door, my phone rang one last time. Unknown number. It wasn't vibrating in my hand. It was ringing inside my head. Now, weeks later, I'm in a psych ward outside reading. I haven't touched a phone since. But every night at 3:13 a.m., I hear the ringtone, faint, distant, like it's coming from behind the walls. And last night, I finally answered again. My name is Jessica Morgan, 27, living alone in East London. The nightmare began last October. It started with the phone, the unknown calls at 3:13 a.m. Silent but deadly. When I finally answered, a whisper promised,
"I'm coming for you."
The calls multiplied. Each night, I found more unsettling signs in my flat. Flickering lights, cold spots, and shadows lurking just out of sight. Sleep became impossible. My dreams were invaded by a faceless figure outside my window, watching, waiting. One night, The tapping came on the glass. I thought I was losing my mind. I installed cameras inside and outside my flat. The footage revealed nothing but static and eerie black shapes. The calls continued, the voice growing clearer, saying things I can't unhear. Then things escalated. My locks were tampered with, objects moved, and the taps at the window grew louder, sometimes accompanied by whispers. Just beyond comprehension, I confronted my landlord, who admitted previous tenants reported strange disturbances but left without explanation. I felt hunted, stalked in my own home by a presence unseen but deeply felt. Digging into the history of my building, I discovered it was built over a burial ground, a forgotten Victorian graveyard. The spirits were restless, the whispers warnings or curses. One night, the caller revealed his identity, or what I believe was his voice. A man named Thomas Gray, who died mysteriously on that land a century ago. He claimed to seek justice, or vengeance, through me. Fear turned to obsession. I began researching Thomas, piecing together his tragic story, while the hauntings intensified. The last straw came when I awoke to find scratches on my bedroom door, deep and fresh. The figure from my dreams stood in the corner, faceless but terrifying. I fled East London at dawn, leaving my flat, my life, behind. The calls stopped. The nightmares faded. But sometimes, late at night, my phone still rings at 3:13 a.m. And when I don't answer, I hear the whisper.
I'm still coming for you.
My name is Rachel Thomas. I'm 27, work as a graphic designer in downtown Toronto, and I've always considered myself a rational person. Not the kind who jumps at shadows or believes in ghost stories. But what happened to me last November on Route 315 still makes my skin crawl when I walk home alone at night. It was Friday, November 17th, bitter cold, with that early winter wind that slices through even the thickest coat. My office had one of those useless happy hour events, and I ended up staying late to finish some client revisions. By the time I packed up and left the office near Queen Street, it was 11:45 p.m. I missed the subway cutoff by 15 minutes. So, I did what I've done a few times before. Walked over to the 315 night bus stop on Bathurst Street. It's a pretty quiet line, mostly used by shift workers and students heading home from late classes. The streets were deserted except for the hum of distant traffic and a flickering streetlight above the stop. The bus pulled in at 12:08 a.m. I remember that because I glanced at my phone while putting on my gloves. Only 3 people got on me. A college-aged guy wearing a hoodie and earbuds, and an older woman clutching a bag of groceries. She looked exhausted. I took a seat near the middle, close to the rear doors, as usual. I don't like sitting at the front because it always feels too exposed. And the back, well, that night taught me not to sit near the back ever again. About 2 stops later, just as we passed DuPont, he got on. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 3 inches, wearing a long dark coat that looked almost too heavy for public transport. His face was oddly pale under the bus's sickly yellow lights, and his eyes, they were wide, unblinking, like he was trying to memorize every face on that bus. But he didn't sit. He just stood at the back, holding the metal bar above, swaying with the bus, staring straight ahead. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he'd been drinking. Maybe he had motion sickness and didn't want to sit. But there was something off about how still he was, how his head never moved with the bumps in the road. 10 minutes in, the bus was almost empty. The guy in the hoodie got off at Christie Street. The older woman left 2 stops later. That left just me, the driver, and the tall man in the coat. He still hadn't moved. I shifted in my seat and glanced back, pretending to check my phone. He wasn't looking at his own phone. He wasn't listening to music. He was just staring directly at me. I felt a cold ripple pass through my chest. It wasn't full panic. Not yet. But my gut told me something was wrong. At 12:39 a.m., the bus rolled into my stop, St. Clarence Avenue, near Bloor. It's a quiet residential area. Older brick homes, dim streetlights, and long empty sidewalks at night. I stood up, pulled the yellow cord, and walked toward the doors. As I stepped off the bus, I looked behind me casually. He was moving, slowly, silently, and he got off at my stop. As I stepped off the bus, the cold air hit me like a wall, sharper and heavier than usual. My breath came out in little clouds that vanished in the quiet night. I didn't turn around right away. I wanted to convince myself I was just being paranoid. I walked quickly toward the main sidewalk, clutching my coat tighter around me. My apartment was just a 10-minute walk away through a series of quiet streets and a small park shortcut. The kind of place you think is safe because everyone knows each other, or so I hoped. But then I heard footsteps. Not behind me, beside me. I looked up and my heart nearly stopped. The man from the bus was there, walking silently alongside me, matching my pace without saying a word. His coat hung open now, revealing a dark shirt underneath, but his hands were shoved deep in the pockets. I wanted to say something, ask why he was following me, but my throat was dry and my voice felt stuck. We passed a streetlight, and I got a better look at his face, gaunt, pale, his eyes locked on mine. It wasn't just the stare anymore. It was something deeper, something wrong. Like he wasn't just watching me, but studying me. I broke into a run. He didn't. He just kept walking. I darted through the park, hoping the dense trees and shadows would give me cover. But when I reached the other side, panting, he was there again, standing at the edge of the path, blocking my way. My mind raced. I tried calling 911 on my phone, but the screen stayed black. No signal. Fear twisted into desperation. I turned and sprinted down a side street, no idea where I was headed. And then I heard him behind me. Not running, just gliding. Every time I glanced back, he seemed closer, faster than a normal man could move. I reached the corner of St. Clarence and Dovercourt Road, heart pounding so loud I was sure it echoed in the empty streets. Just a few blocks to my apartment. I could see the porch light in the distance. And then suddenly, silence. No footsteps. No sound. I stopped and turned. He was gone. Relief flooded me, but it was brief. I checked every street corner and shadow for the pale man, but there was no sign of him. I slowed down to a cautious walk, trying to calm my shaking hands. The night felt heavier, the wind whispering threats I couldn't hear. When I finally reached my building, a red brick duplex on St. Clarence, I grabbed my keys from my purse, fumbling so badly it took forever to unlock the door. Inside, the warmth wrapped around me like a shield. I locked the door, double-checked every window, and turned on every light. Still, the feeling didn't leave me. I poured myself a glass of water, sat on the couch, and tried to make sense of what happened. Was he a man? Or something else? Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It read, "You forgot your scarf." My blood ran cold. I reached into my coat pocket. My scarf was gone. I called the police, but they said there were no reports of suspicious men in the area. And the surveillance cameras on the bus? No one matching that description was caught, they told me. I didn't sleep that night. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching me, even at home. Every time I walked outside, every time the bus rumbled by on Queen Street, I thought I saw his pale face in the shadows. Then, a week later, I checked my security camera footage. At 3:14 a.m., something appeared on the front porch. A tall figure, standing motionless in the dark. But the strangest part? The figure vanished before the camera could focus. I never took the bus again. I moved out of the neighborhood 2 months later. And here's the part that still haunts me the most. The bus driver told me the man was never on the bus that night. Not a single passenger saw him get on or off. He didn't buy a ticket. He wasn't on any camera. Somehow, he was just there, on the bus, but also not. To this day, I don't know who or what followed me home that night. But I do know this. He never needed to get off the bus to follow me. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 25, live in Chicago, and work late shifts at a hospital downtown. November nights here are brutal. Biting cold that sneaks through your coat and leaves you numb. But nothing prepared me for the terror I faced on the night of November 22nd. I finished work at 11:30 p.m. and headed to the bus stop at Halsted and Roosevelt. It's a pretty quiet area at night, with only a few streetlights flickering in the heavy fog. The bus was due in 15 minutes, but I wasn't worried. I'd waited there dozens of times before. Then I noticed him, a man standing under the only working streetlight, about 20 feet from me. He was tall, thin, and his clothes looked like they hadn't been washed in weeks. His eyes were fixed on the ground, but every few seconds, he'd glance up and look straight at me. I tried to look away, but it was impossible. When the bus arrived, I got on quickly, hoping he wouldn't follow. He did. He sat a few rows behind me, silent, still, watching. The bus moved through the foggy streets, the dim lights casting eerie shadows inside. I tried to keep my eyes on my phone, but I could feel him, the man behind me, watching every move I made. At the next stop, the bus emptied out, and I thought I might be safe. But he stayed, silent, unmoving. I kept checking over my shoulder, but he never blinked. His eyes were like black pits. Then, he whispered my name. A cold chill ran down my spine. I turned fully and locked eyes with him. "Emily," he said, voice low and raspy. My heart pounded. I didn't respond. When the bus reached my stop, I hurried off, running down the street. Behind me, footsteps followed, slow and deliberate. I ducked into a convenience store, panting and scared. The clerk looked up. "You okay?" I nodded, trying to steady my breathing. Then the bell above the door jingled. He was there, just outside, staring in with a twisted smile. I grabbed a bottle of water and rushed to the cashier. "Call the cops," I whispered. But when I looked back outside, he was gone. Outside, the street was empty except for a cold wind that whispered my name. I never saw him again. The police found nothing. No footage, no witnesses. But every night since, when I'm alone, I hear footsteps behind me. And sometimes, a raspy whisper calls my name. I moved to a new apartment, far from that bus stop. But the fear never leaves. Sometimes, I wonder if he's still out there, waiting, watching. My name's Sarah, and this happened last December in New York City. I work as a graphic designer and often take a late night Uber home from my office in Midtown. One night, around 1 a.m., I ordered a ride. The driver pulled up, a middle-aged man with tired eyes. I got in, and the city lights blurred past the window. About 10 minutes into the ride, I felt it. A sudden cold chill swept over the car, and the radio flickered off. I glanced in the rearview mirror and noticed someone, or something, sitting silently in the back seat. But when I looked, the seat was empty. I blinked and it was gone. The driver said nothing. And then, the car took a sharp turn down a street I'd never seen before. The car glided through dark streets unfamiliar to me. My voice caught in my throat when I asked, "Where are you taking me?" He didn't answer. The silence was thick, almost suffocating. Suddenly, the radio crackled back on, but it wasn't music. It was a low, distorted whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like someone calling my name. I glanced in the rearview mirror again. There it was, a shadowy figure hunched in the back seat. Eyes glowing faintly red, my heart froze. I tried to open the door, but it was locked. I grabbed my phone to call for help, but it showed no service. The driver kept staring ahead, expression blank, like a puppet. The shadow leaned forward, whispering in my ear, "You can't leave." Panic exploded inside me. I screamed, pounding on the driver's seat, trying to wake him. The car sped up, faster. Then suddenly, everything stopped. The car was parked in an empty lot. The door unlocked. I bolted out, running without looking back. That night, I never returned to that route. And every time I close my eyes, I see those glowing red eyes, waiting, silent,